think if you want to study the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita is very clear, and it gives the Vedanta philosophy very good, accessible presentation, but also specifically told by Krishna, from Krishna's own point of view and from the point of view of glorifying his own devotional service as the highest of all. So he takes all of the different paths of yoga, jnana yoga, karma yoga, ashtanga yoga, dhyana yoga, meditation and stuff, and he explains it all as part of how it leads to his bhakti as the ultimate understanding of how to understand him as a person. And he discloses his personal feature, and that even though he's really the whole universe and more than that, still he has a relationship with his devotee in love. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is a good starting book, and then the Srimad Bhagavatam is like a postgraduate study. In Bhagavad Gita, he explains the whole philosophy to Arjuna, his friend and disciple, cousin, brother, relative. And he explains, what is absolute truth, and what is the personality of the absolute truth, and how has he reached, what is yoga, what is conditioning, how we're transmigrating because of karma and everything. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam, he shows the life of pure devotees and how they live, and it tells the stories of his different incarnations, what they do when they come to the earth. Sometimes he comes, like this week, we're celebrating when he appears as a boar, a giant pig. Yeah, white pigs. Yeah, a big one, furry one with tusks. And he goes into the water because the earth has sunk under the water of devastation. And he takes it out with his tusks. He smells it like a pig, and he brings it out with his tusk. And then one demon, and then he sets it floating on the water, and he kills the demon Hiranyaksha. So I was thinking this morning that my consciousness is like sunken under the water of material nature, and I want the Lord to bring it out like the boar. But anyway, this Bhagavatam tells all of those stories, and then in the 10th canto, it tells all of the pastimes of Krishna, what he did when he was on earth.
What pastime is the occupation? What he enjoyed? What means pastime?
Pastime, it means what he does for fun, his play.
Hobby.
His play, all God does is
Contact
play.
customer service if you need assistance.
We had
Goodbye.
one German scholar came to my guru's institution, and he said, I've traveled all over India, and I've looked at all the different gods, and I've decided that Krishna is the supreme. And why is that? Because all of the different gods, Durga, Lakshmi, Kartikeya, everybody, Shiva, they all have some function. They have something to do.
This service is provided in high definition by free conference call hd.com.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound. This
actually
menu
all
will
the
repeat.
different things that he does, even as Vishnu. Yeah. So
Please enter your access code followed by the pound. This menu will repeat.
Means that they're activities, but they're simply joyful activities. No.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound.
Like hard work.
This menu will repeat.
Okay, it's time for us to begin. And
you exceeded number of attempts. Please contact customer service if you need assistance. Goodbye.
Is this on? This seems on. Hare Krishna. So we have what we do on Saturday mornings is we recite a long prayer, Brahma Samhita, and I think today let's do it in Sanskrit first, and then we'll read the English afterwards. So in this book, this blue book here that you have, the very first part, this one here, if you want to follow in that book, that's fine, but we're going to... Okay. Yeah, you want to see the Devanagari, right? Yeah, okay. So, you're learning the Devanagari too. But it's easier. It will be easier for you to just follow the Roman letters. It's in our alphabet instead of that alphabet. It may be hard anyway, because we'll go a little bit fast, you know. Try to follow the meter and enter into the vibration, the transcendental vibration of the sound. Here, let's stand up and go in front of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Sahasra Patra Kamalang Gokulakyang Mahatpadam Tat Karnikarang Tadhama Tad Anantangsha Sambhavam Karnikarang Mahadyantrang Shatkonang Vajrakilakam Shadanga Shatpadisthanam Prakritya Purushena Cha Premananda Mahananda Rasena Vasthitam Hiyat Jyoti Rupena Manuna Kama Bijena Sangatam Tatkinjalkang Tadangshanang Tatpatrani Shriyamapi Chaturasrang Tatparitaha Shweta Dvipakyam Chaturasrang Chaturmurtesh Chaturdhama Chatushkritam Chaturbhik Purushartaischa Chaturbhir Hitubhir Britam Shulayar Dashabhiranadham Urdvadho Dikvitikshwapi Ashtabhir Nidhibir Jushtam Ashtabhik Siddhipisthatha Manurupaischa Dashabhir Dikpalaik Parito Vritam Shamair Gauraischa Raktaischa Shuklaischa Parshadarshabhahi Shobhitang Shaktibhistabhir Adbhutabhik Samantataha Evang Jyotirmayo Devaha Sadanandak Paratparaha Atmaramasya Tasyasti Prakrityana Samagamaha Mayaya Ramamanasya Naviyogasthaya Saha Atmana Ramaya Reme Tyaktakalang Sisrikshaya Niyatik Sarama Devi Tatpriya Tadvashang Tada Tallingang Bhagavan Shambhur Jyoti Rupak Sanatanaha Ya Yonik Sapara Shaktihi Kamo Bijang Mahadharahe Linga Yoniatmika Jata Ima Maheshwari Prajaha Shaktiman Purushak Soyang Linga Rupi Maheshwaraha Tasmin Avirabhu Linge Mahavishnur Jagatpatihi Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshak Sahasrapat Sahasrabahur Vishvatma Sahasrangsha Sahasrasuhu Narayanaksa Bhagavan Apastasmat Sanatanat Avirasit Karanarno Nidhik Sankarshanatmakaha Yoga Nidrangatas Tasmin Sahasrangsha Swayang Mahan Tadroma Bilajaleshu Bichang Sankarshanasya Cha Haiman Yandani Jatani Mahabhuta Britani Tu Pratyandam evam ekangshad vishati swayam sahasramurdha vishvatma mahavishnu sanatanaha Vaman gadasrajad vishnung dakshinangat prajapatim jyotirlingamayang shambhum kurcha deshadavasrajat ahankaratmaka vishvang tasmadetad vijayata atatais tribidhair veshair lilam udvahatakila Yoga Nidra Bhagavati Tasya Shri Riva Sangata Sisrikshayang Tato Nabhes Tasya Padmang Viniryayo Tannalang Hema Nalinam Brahmano Lokamadbhutam Tatvani Purvarudhani Karanani Parasparam Samavaya Prayogacha Vibhinnani Pritak Pritak Chitchaktya Sajjamanotha Bhagavan Adi Purushaha Yojayan Mayaya Devo Yoga Nidrama Kalpayat Yojayit Vatutanyeva Prabhibesha Swayang Guham Guhang Prabhishte Tasmingstu Jivatma Pratipudyate Sanityo Nitya Sambandhak Prakritischa Paraivasa Evang Sarvatma Sambandhang Nabhyang Padmang Harer Abhut Tatra Brahma Bhavad Bhuyash Chaturvedi Chaturmukhaha Sanjato Bhagavat Shaktya Tatkalang Kalyachuritaha Sisrikshayang Mating Chakre Purva Sanskara Sanskritaha Dadarsha Kevalang Twantang Nanyat Kim Apisarvataha Uvacha puratastasmai tasya divya saraswati kama krishnaya govinda hey gopi jana ityapi vallabhaya priyavahner mantrang te dasyati priyam tapastvang tapa etena tapasidhir bhavishyasi Ata tepe sasuchirang prinan govindam avyayam Shweta dvipapating krishnam golokastang parat param Prakritya guna rupinya paryupasitam Sahasradala sampanne koti kinjalka bringhite Bhumischintamani tatra karnikare mahasane Samasinang chidanandang jyotirupang sanatanam Shabda brahmamayang venum vadayantam mukhambuje Vilasini kanavritang swairang shairabhishtutam Ata venu ninadasya traimurti mayi gatihi Spuranti praviveshashu mukhabjani swayang bhuvaha Gayatring gayatastasmad adhikatya sarojajaha Sanskritaschadi gununa dvijatam agamattataha Traya prabudho tavidhir vigyata tattvasagaraha Tushtava veda sarena stotrena ninakeshavam Chintamani prakara sadmasukalpa vriksha Lakshavriteshu surabhirabhipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra shatasang brahmasevyamanam Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Venum kwanantam aravinda dalaya taksham Varhavatang samasitam buddha sundarangam Kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobhang Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Alola chandra kala sadvanamalya bangshi Ratnangadang pranaya keli kalavilasam Shamang tribhanga lalitang niyata prakasham Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti Pashyanti panti kalayanti chirang jaganti Ananda chinmaya sadujvala vigrahasya Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam Adyang purana purushang nabhayopanang cha Teshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Stukoti satavatsara sampragamyo Vayo ratapi manaso munipunggavanam Sopyasti yat prapadasimnya vichintya tattve Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Ekopya saura chayatung jagadanda koting Yat shaktirasti jagadanda chaya yadantaha Andantarastha paramanuk chayantarastham Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Yad bhava bhavitatiyo manujastataiva Samprapya rupa mahimasanayana bhushaha Suktaryameva nigama pratitaikstubanti Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhis Tabhirya eva nijarupataya kalabhihi Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Premanjanachurita bhakti vilochanena Santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti Yang shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Ramadi murti shukalani amena tishtan Nanavatara makarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayang samabhavat paramak pumanyo
Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Shvashesha Vishudhadi Vibhuti Bhinnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantamashesha Bhutang Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Shatani Sute Traigunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitaya Mana Sattva Valambi Parasatvang Vishudha Satvang Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manaksu Yak Praninang Pratipalang Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayatya Jasram Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Goloka Namni Nijadhamni Talecha Tasya Devi Mahesha Haridhama Suteshu Teshu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitascha Yena Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga Ichhanurupam Apiyasya Chacheshtate Sa Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Kshirang Yatadadhi Vikara Vishesha Yogat Sanjayatena Hitatak Pratagasti Hetoho Sambhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyat Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Diparchireva Hitashantaram Apyupetya Dipayate Vivrita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrigeva Vishnu Tvaya Vibhati Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yakaranarnava Jale Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Parang Swamurting Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yasyaika Nishvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanathah Vishnur Mahansa Iha Yasya Kalabhishesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Bhasvan Yatashma Shakaleshu Nijeshu Teja Swiyankiyat Prakatayat Yapitad Badatra Brahmaya Esha Jagadanda Vidhana Karta Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yat Pada Pallava Yugang Vinidhaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samaye Saganati Rajaha Vignan Vihantu Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Muruddishascha Kalastathatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yangcha Govindamadi Purusham Yat Chakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanang Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Tejaha Yasyagyaya Brahmati Sanghbrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Dharmota Papa Nichaya Shrutayasta Pangsi Brahmadi Kita Bhataka Bhatayascha Jivaha Yaddatta Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yastvindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajang Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yang Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayati Piti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavahi Sanchintya Tasya Sadrishing Tanamapurete Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Shriya Kantaha Kantaha Parama Purusha Kalpatarabo Druma Bhumischinta Mani Ganamayi Toyamamritam Kathaganang Natyang Gamanam Apibangshi Priya Sakhi Chidanandang Jyotik Paramapi Tadasvadyam Apicha Sayatra Kshirabdhik Sravati Surabhibhyascha Sumahan Nimeshardhakyo Vavrajati Nahi Yatrapi Samayaha Bhaje Shveta Dvipang Tamaham Iha Golokamiti Yang Vidantaste Santakshiti Biralak Charakatipaye Ato Vacha Mahavishnur Bhagavantang Prajapating Brahman Mahatva Vijnane Prajasarge Chachenmatihi Pancha Shloki Mimang Vidyang Vatsatattang Nibodhame Prabudhe Jnana Bhakti Bhyam Atmani Ananda Chinmayi Udeti Anutama Bhaktir Bhagavat Prema Lakshana Pramana Istat Sarachara Istat Abhyasaya Nirantaram Bodhayan Atmanatmanang Bhaktim Apyutamang Labhet Yasyak Shreyas Karang Nasti Ya Nirvitim Apnuyat Ya Sadhyati Mameva Bhakting Tameva Sadhayet Dharman Anyan Parityajya Mamekang Bhaja Vishvasan Yadrishi Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi Kurvan Nirantarang Karma Loko Yam Manuvartate Tenaiva Karmana Dhyayan Mang Parang Bhakti Mitchati Ahang Hi Vishvasya Characharasya Bijang Pradhanang Prakritik Pumangsha Maya Hitang Teja Idang Bibharshi Vidhe Vidhehi To Jaganti Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Iti Shri Brahmasanghita Sampurnam Harihi Om Jai Shri Shri Radha Madana Mohan Vaishasika started this recitation of Brahma Samhita every Saturday some years ago when we were, I think, did we start when we were in the storefront or did we start at Bascom?
I think by the time I came Bascom it was there.
Okay, yeah, it was there already in Bascom. We may have started already in the storefront when we were in the little tiny, the whole temple was the little tiny storefront. And then there was a house where people lived. But this... the blue tab is very nice to convenient for us to have different prayers there and stuff like that. Some devotees like Vrindavan Priya and others put this nice thing together. You can tell this prayer is very poetic. It's a prayer composed by Lord Brahma himself, and he's the Adi Kavi, the first poet. And to please our deities, we do different things. We decorate them, we cook for them, bathe them, put them to rest, wake them up. And one thing they like to have prayers said to them. Also, chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra very much pleases them. So we try to chant Hare Krishna for them as much as we can. But this nice prayer, the devotees, when Vaishasika was a young devotee in New York, the devotees, he used to, while the pujaris were dressing the deities, he and some other devotees would recite this prayer for the deities there. And the deities are very much pleased by that. So we should read the English translation of the prayer. And why don't we'll go around the room, we each read 5 verses each. And I can start. Text 1. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in the second verse. The super-excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokul, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus, sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. The whirl of that transcendental lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling, predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested in a hexagonal figure with sixfold divisions. The world of that eternal realm, Gokula, is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. Its petals are the abodes of gopis, who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted, and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like Dhamma, that is, spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna. The surrounding external plane of Gokul is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Shwetadweep, surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. Shwetadweep is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the fourfold human requirements, such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which deal with the mantra and which are the bases of achievements of the fourfold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the zenith and nadir. The 8 directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Shankha, Makara, Kachapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protectors, Dikpalas, of the 10 directions, in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white, and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Vimala, etc., shine on all sides.
The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Krishna never consorts with his illusory energy. Still, her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. When he intends to create the material world, the amorphous pastime, in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual chit potency, Rama, by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy, is an auxiliary activity. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. Rama Devi, the spiritual chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. At creation, there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Swamsa. This halo is divine Sambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to the supreme regulatrix, Niyati. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute apara potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. All offspring of the consort of the great Lord Maheshwara of this mundane world are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. The person embodying the material causal principle, namely the great Lord of this mundane world Maheshwara Sambhu, in the form of the main male generating organ, is joined to his female consort the limited Maya as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance.
The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars. In his thousands and thousands of subjective portions, he is the creator of the thousands of individual souls. The same Mahavishnu is spoken of by the name of Narayana in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expanse of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankhasrana, who abides in Paravyoma, the above supreme Purusa, with thousands of subjective portions, repose in the state of divine sleep, Yoga Nidra, in the waters of the spiritual causal ocean. Spiritual seed of Sankhasrana, existing in the pores of skin of Mahavishnu, are born as so many golden sperms. The sperms are covered with 5 great elements. The same Mahavishnu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portions that entered into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension. For example, they are the eternal universal Mahavishnu possessing thousands of heads. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings. From his right limb and from the space between his 2 eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine, manifested halo.
Okay.
The function of Shambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe enshrining the mundane egotistic principle has originated from Shambhu. Thereupon, the same great personal Godhead, assuming the threefold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati and Shambhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. Hence, it being perverted, the Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoganidra, the constituent of his own spiritual chit potency, full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss appertaining to his own divine personality. When Vishnu, lying in the ocean of milk, wills to create this universe, a golden lotus springs from his navel pit. The golden lotus with its stem is the abode of Brahma, representing Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Before their conglomeration, the primary elements in their nascent state remained originally separate entities. Non-application of the conglomerating process is the cause of their separate existence. Divine Mahavishnu, primal Godhead, through association with his own spiritual chit potency, moved Maya, and by the application of the conglomerating principle, created those different entities in their state of cooperation. And after that, he himself consorted with Yoganidra by way of his eternal dalliance with his spiritual chit potency. By conglomerating all those separate entities, he manifested the innumerable mundane universes and himself entered into the inmost recess of every extended conglomerate, Virad Vigraha. At that time, those jivas who had lain dormant during the cataclysm were awakened.
The same jiva is eternal and is for eternity and without a beginning, joined to the Supreme Lord by the tie of an eternal kinship. He is transcendental spiritual potency. The divine lotus which springs from the navel pit of Vishnu is in every way related by the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma, versed in the 4 Vedas. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions, but he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. Then the goddess of learning, Saraswati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, namely, Kling Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled.
Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Shvetadip, for a long time. His meditation ran thus. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its fold, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, being made manifest, that is imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal perceptor, Godhead himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, embodying the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautiful, with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always reveals in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Syama Sundara is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is this full of most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figures possess in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, with the beginning and the eternal Purusa. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis, who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis, who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universe exists in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primary Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas, told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Golok, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extension of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual ras.
Page 74.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundar, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahma mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose external potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities, namely sattva, rajas, and tamas, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of recollecting souls as the transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, mundane world. Next above it is Mahesh Dham, abode of Mahesh. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Hari Dham, abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. The external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect, curd, is neither same as nor different from its cause, namely milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction.
The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who, assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Sesha, replete with the all-accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, Yoga Nidra. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds, appearing from the pores of hair of Mahavishnu, remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of the later, Mahavishnu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is the portion of portion. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion Brahma receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests some portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bears the name of Suryakanta, etc. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesha upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head, in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds.
The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, viz. Fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul, and mind. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and into whom they enter at the same time of the universal cataclysm. The sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances, and all jivas, from Brahma to the meanest insect. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indra Gopa than in that of Indra, king of the Devas. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, the meditators of whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service, attain to bodily forms befitting the nature of their contemplation.
I worship that transcendental seat known as Shwetadeep, where, as loving consorts, the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is the purpose gem, all water is nectar, every word is a song, every gate is a dance, the flute is the favorite attendant, effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Golok only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. On hearing these hymns containing the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said to Brahma, Brahma, if you experience the inclination to create offsprings by being endowed with the real knowledge of the glory of Godhead, listen, my beloved, from me to this science set forth in the following 5 shlokas. When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, bhakti, super excellent and alloyed devotion characterized by love, for Godhead is awakened towards Krishna, the beloved of all souls. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. These preliminary practices of devotion, sadhana bhakti, are conducive to the realization of loving devotion than whom there is no superior well-being, who goes hand in hand with the attainment of the exclusive state of supreme bliss, and who can lead to myself.
Abandoning all meritorious performances, serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. By meditating on me by means of those deeds, one will obtain devotion characterized by love in the shape of the supreme service. Listen, O Vidhi, I am the seed that is the fundamental principle of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am pradhana, the substance of matter. I am prakriti, material cause. And I am purusha, efficient cause. This fiery energy that belongs specially to the Brahman that inheres in you has been conferred also by me. It is by bearing this fiery energy that you regulate this phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So this language is difficult, even in English, even for native English speakers. This was translated in the 1920s by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was a great genius, autodidact, but more than a genius, a transcendental Vaikuntha person. And he taught himself all these languages just by reading dictionaries and things like that. And he was able to present this very scientific, difficult, abstract concepts that, from the Sanskrit and presented in this language. And Srila Prabhupada didn't allow us, when we, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, published this, he didn't allow us to clean up the grammar or anything because he was afraid that his disciples would interfere with the meaning, the subtle and nuances of meaning that were brought out in the translation by his spiritual master. So we had to leave. We could do some things like change the Devanagari into Roman letters and things like that, but we had to keep every comma where it was, even though sometimes it's not in the right place. Yes, microphone.
So just now you said it's kind of difficult for native English speakers. So what exactly is the difficulty? Is it the vocabulary used, or is some grammatical errors which is not coherent with the...
Well, first of all, the concepts are spiritual concepts that may be unfamiliar to people, but also the vocabulary used. These words like regulatrix and the non-application of the conglomerating principle. Even the whole idea, for a modern person, the whole idea of the elements, fire, water, air, earth, ether, mind, like to have mind be an element is something that's kind of foreign to the sort of modern way of thinking of things. Mind. We now have this Cartesian idea that mind is a separate thing, and then the elements of the world are things that are made of matter. So, and that mind isn't matter. But mind actually is another material element, according to this. It's just a subtle element that we can't perceive. And the whole Vedic science is based on, each of the elements is associated with a particular sense. Like water is associated with taste. Fire is associated with vision and form. Air is associated with touch. And there's different kinds of airs. So air doesn't just mean nitrogen and oxygen and things, carbon dioxide that's mixed up that we're breathing here. But there's different kinds of airs that operate in our body, and different kinds of airs that cause the universe to move in the way it moves and things like that. And so air is associated with the sense of touch, and people like qi, the energy, prana that the Chinese Taoist monks learn to use so that they can do these amazing acrobatic feats and martial arts and things like that, is also kind of life air. So these are the different life airs that people use to carry, yogis use to carry the soul through to different chakras and stuff in the body. And earth is associated with the sense of smell. Thank you. And each of these senses also are associated with their objects: odor, flavor, that which is touched, that which is seen, and so forth. And they're also associated with different predominating deities. So there's several things that make it difficult. One thing is just that the whole metaphysics is foreign to modern people, and it may not be foreign. It may not be as foreign to people who are born and raised in Hindu culture. Words like Shambhu and Maheshwara that you automatically know is Shiva, but Americans won't know when they see Shambhu or they won't be familiar with Durga. But also the vocabulary is difficult and the grammar is difficult. Yes?
I was saying, Prabhu, like when there's so much technical aspect, right? There's 8 directions, like 10 directions, there are 4 parts.
And they have dikpalas. Most people, even if you speak English very well, but dikpala is not an English word and you won't be familiar. Like if you go to India, you'll see around the big temples there are protectors. You go to circumambulate the temple and there are different protectors of the different entrances, of the different directions. And they stand there to keep out the demons and, whatever. In fact, we're going to be reading about gatekeepers today in the next part of our program. But having discussed that, it's a difficult subject. We usually, before we start the Srimad Bhagavatam part of our program, we usually take one verse and purport and read it and then try to churn it and understand it deeper from this Brahma Samhita. So I was wondering if anybody among you, if you have any question or any thought or anything you wanted to talk about while we were reading it, or something that jumped out at you that it made an impression, we could take that verse and then read the commentary by Bhaktisiddhanta and then try to elaborate and tease out the meaning and explain it more.
I don't remember the exact words, but there was this discussion about like how exactly that process of creation happened, like with the intercourse of Sambhu and those details. Maybe.
Okay, I think I know the one you mean. That when Maya makes her appearance and then.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is technical stuff. All right. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. This is text 8 on page 20. Ramadevi is another name for the Lord's internal potency. The word chit here is used. Chit means consciousness. And Ramadevi is the goddess of fortune, the consort of God. And she's his internal potency. That is, he has 2 different energies, 2 different sort of enchanting energies. One enchants people so that they can become associated with him through devotion. And the other enchants people so that they can be forgetful of him and through false ego identify themselves with their own bodies and try to assert themselves as independent from him. And so that energy, that illusory energy, the external energy is called Maya, and the internal energy is called Rama. So Ramadevi, the spiritual chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. So regulatrix just means, it's just a feminine way of saying regulator, like regulatret. Sometimes we say an actress instead of an actor. So it comes from Greek, right? Actrix, it would be female. So the idea is that the goddess of fortune, who's the internal potency, who actually engages people in the service of the Lord, is actually the ultimate regulator of everything. But the divine plenary, so the plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. We were already talking about that. That's the Purusha avatar Vishnu, Mahavishnu. At creation there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Swangsha. This halo is divine Shambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. So what we're dealing with now is that Vishnu, he's lying in the causal ocean, and universes are coming out of the pores of his skin, and he impregnates those material elements with souls, conditioned souls who are under the control of Maya, the external energy, that is the illusory energy, that is, we're talking about the material creation of the material world, which is not the kingdom of God, but is this sort of prison house where those who've rebelled against God have come. And so how does Vishnu impregnate his material energy? What makes the material energy material is that in material energy is the bewildering energy where we don't see Vishnu. We forget him. So he doesn't actually consort directly with his material energy. Instead, he glances over her, and he impregnates her through his glance because he can do things very magically with any of his senses, can do anything. So he doesn't actually become the husband of material energy, but the husband of material energy is Lord Shiva. And that glance of Vishnu is known as Shambhu, and that is Lord Shiva. So he becomes the husband of material energy. So Shiva's wife is Parvati, Durga, Maya Devi. And their union is what produces all the beings in this world. And so let's go on reading this. So Shambhu is, we learned, there was a later verse in here where we said that just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids and is neither same as nor different from its cause, namely milk, the effect, curd, is neither same as nor different from milk. Similarly, Shiva is Vishnu, but not exactly, because Vishnu doesn't touch matter. Shiva is Vishnu's form that he takes to touch matter, and in that form he has different qualities. But like curd is different from milk. This halo is divine Shambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. The spiritual world is fully illuminated. It's made of consciousness. There's no need for sunlight or electric lights there because it's the realm of pure consciousness. And it's very bright. This material world is covered in darkness. That darkness is the forgetfulness of God, the forgetfulness of our own real spiritual nature. And therefore we need luminaries like sun or fire or electric lights or something to light things up. Otherwise it will naturally be in darkness. And so Lord Shiva is like the twilight reflection of that spiritual illumination. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to the supreme regulatrix. So normally we think of Shiva as destroyer and Brahma as progenitor, right? Prajapati. There's three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everything that has a temporary existence has a creation, endurance for some time, and a destruction. And the whole nature of something being material is that it has these three things. It has these three qualities. And those qualities pervade all material existence. And Shiva is the lord of the ignorance, the destruction potency. But because this whole material world is by nature the world where destruction takes place, or the world of Maya, the world of ignorance of the Supreme Lord, Shiva is actually both the destroyer and creator of everything. He's the whole lord of the whole universe. In fact, Devi, his wife, is actually the goddess of the whole universe, and he's the lord of her, really. So this is being described. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. So here now is the creation of Maya, that she's just like Shiva is a transformation of Vishnu for the work of destruction, so Devi, Maya, is a transformation of Rama Devi or Lakshmi, or transformation of the spiritual internal potency for the work of, really the whole material creation is there to give those souls who don't want to serve Krishna the illusion that they can opt out, that they're not servants of Krishna. Even though they can't help but be servants of Krishna, they have to serve Krishna indirectly by serving his external energy, Maya. We get a material body. Yes, go ahead.
So when you say that souls have some tendency to forget Krishna sometimes, so why does it happen? Even though the souls and everything in the world is created by Krishna himself. So everything has been programmed by Krishna himself. It means the tendency of forgetting Krishna, does it come from him?
Well, the way Srila Prabhupada has explained it is that the soul is like a little part of Krishna. Just like a big fire, there's a little spark. from the fire. Or a big gold mine, it's the whole stock of all the gold in the world or in the universe or something, but then you may have a little piece of that gold on your ring or somewhere. So the soul is part of Krishna, a drop of water from the big ocean of Krishna. And that drop of water has all the same qualities as Krishna. It's the same as Krishna in quality, even though when it's separated from Krishna, it's different. And because Krishna is fully independent by his nature, he's free. Nobody can force him to do anything. He does what he wants. He's called Swarat. That's the nature of the absolute truth. It's completely independent. But we, as small parts of Krishna, we have something called marginal independence. We have all his qualities, but in small quantities. So we have a little independence too. That independence is expressed by free will. And if we didn't have free will, then we couldn't have a loving relationship. The reason he manifests himself as us, or in so many different living beings and ages, is to enjoy. Eko bahu syam. He's one, but he becomes many because he has a quality of he likes to enjoy. He's just like we get that. Everything we have, we get from him. We like to enjoy by nature. And we're getting that because Krishna likes to enjoy, and we're little parts of him. But in this material world, we're trying to enjoy in the wrong way. We're trying to enjoy by contacting our senses with things that will please our senses, rather than by serving Krishna in love. The enjoyment of love is much higher, much greater, much more substantial, and it can be eternal, love of God. Whereas the enjoyment of tasting something nice, having relations with a beautiful woman, or having wealth and a big house and things like that, all that enjoyment it's external. It can't really satisfy the need of the soul. And it's also temporary. Nobody can do it all. No one can have it all the time because we are small. We're not meant to be. That kind of enjoyment is actually a kind of like asserting ourselves as if we were the enjoyer. But actually the enjoyer is the complete whole, God. And being the part of the whole, we're the servant. So because we have that marginal independence, it means we can misuse it. Exactly when we decided to misuse it or why we decided to misuse it is mysterious. Srila Prabhupada says no one can trace out when the soul first came to the material world. But we know that the nature of the soul, the original eternal home of the soul, is in the kingdom of God in pure devotional service. Lord Chaitanya said, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. This word Swarup, one's own form, literally one's own form, means that quality of something that doesn't change. There's another quality called tatastha, which can change. There's Swarup Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana. So you may be, I'll give an example, you may be a fireman, and when you go to work, you put on a uniform and you go to the firehouse and you have a helmet on and you go and you do fireman things. But then when you come home, you're not a fireman. You take it off and you put on your pajamas and you sleep. So whether you're a fireman or a guy in his pajamas, reading the newspaper at night, those things are changing. But what you actually are, that doesn't change. You're the same person. So similarly, as we're spirit souls, and in this life we may be Indian, American, French, man, woman, black, white, whatever. We may have different occupations, different qualities with which we do our occupations. But those are changing. According to our karma, our next life we may be born woman, African, Chinese, whatever. Fireman or engineer or whatever. So those are all changing. But what is it that is eternal that we really are, that doesn't change, that we eternally are? And that is that we're Krishnera Nitya Das. We're eternal servants of Krishna. But we've forgotten that identity, and this Hare Krishna movement is a way to remind us of that, to bring us back to that pure consciousness where we remember our eternal identity. So how we actually came here, this, even among devotees, they have debates about it. Did the jiva actually leave the spiritual world? Because Srila Prabhupada said we should understand that sometime, even though it's in time immemorial, sometime we left Krishna's service. We were in Krishna's service and we left Krishna's service. But he also says, and scriptures also say, that no one ever leaves the kingdom of God. In fact, we'll be reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam portion today, we'll be reading something about the story of Jaya and Vijaya, who were in Vaikuntha. They were gatekeepers, but because of a curse, they had to actually come into the material world. And this was a pastime arranged by Krishna because he likes to fight also. Sometimes a rich man will learn the art of fencing or the art of boxing or something, and then he'll hire some professional to come and fence with him and train him and box with him and spar with him, and it makes him happy like that. So Krishna likes to fight, and to enjoy that fighting propensity, he takes some of his devotees, because no one is qualified to fight with him who's just some ordinary man. So he takes some devotees and he sends them to the material world to make them demons. And these demons, some of them, like Jaya and Vijaya, when they became demons like Ravana and Kumbhakarna, or Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, these demons can be very, very powerful. The demigods can't fight with them because they're actually Krishna's own people, his own devotees that he sent. So that in the Srimad Bhagavatam it describes how when Jaya and Vijaya were being born, there was a whole arrangement of why they were being born, because their mother was lusty and she induced the great sage Kashyapa to conceive children at the wrong time, at the time that would be offensive to Lord Shiva. And he told her not to, but she insisted, so she seduced him at that time. And then as a result, the pregnancy there were these twin demons inside her. And even before they were born, the whole universe started to become dark and suffer. And all the demigods went to Lord Brahma and said, "What's happening?" And Lord Brahma told them this story about how Krishna had sent his two servants, Jaya and Vijaya, to become demons. And he explained the origin of that. And it's very mysterious, because anyone in the spiritual world would not leave the spiritual world. They're already protected. Even if they make a mistake, Krishna will protect them there. But somehow or another, in order to enjoy his pastime of fighting, he sent his two servants, Jaya and Vijaya, to become his enemies for 3 lifetimes. And they gave him pleasure like that, and they could fight with him. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we have that, and this is the essence, the essential teaching of religion is that the soul has been separated from God by misuse of free will. And to get back to unite with God again, we have to learn how to properly use our free will. The proper use of free will is to serve God in love and devotion, but because of our long contact with material nature, we're conditioned, and we have this deep-seated sense that our happiness will come through our material body. And we even have deep-seated anger and envy against God. When in the beginning of creation, when Lord Brahma was creating, I was reading in Srimad Bhagavatam recently, when Lord Brahma was creating all the different generations of living beings in this world, he first had to create the conditions in which they would be put. And he created these things, tamisra, anthatamisra, moha, mahamoha, and tamas. These 5 different states of ignorance or coverings. He created them out of his shadow. And tamisra is anger. And it's even transcendentalists in their transcendental activities. They may fast, they may do austerity, they may do meditation, they may do gyan, philosophical understanding of the difference in spirit and matter, but they still may maintain some of this, deep-seated anger that they don't want to surrender to God in a personal way and have a personal relationship with Him. And that keeps them thinking of God as an impersonal, it's frightening for us to have a relationship with a supreme person. But at the same time, who else is the best lover but someone who completely knows us, who doesn't have any faults, who's kind and loves us? That's Krishna. But we have to be qualified to associate with Him as His lover. We have to become qualified ourselves and get rid of all the anger, envy, illusion, and so forth. The idea that Andhata Mishra means this concept that everything is finished with death. We think that this body is everything, and when the body dies, it's all finished. And moha is this attraction for material things. My wife, my family, this is me, this is what what my success will be if I protect them and enjoy with them. And so these are things that hold us back from actually becoming completely lovers of Krishna. And if we are completely lovers of Krishna, our meditation on Krishna can become perfectly pure. We can, not just meditation in our minds, but we can also serve Krishna perfectly purely, even in this world. We don't have to wait until we go back to the kingdom of God to make garlands for Krishna. We have the deities of Krishna here. We can make garlands. We can do everything. We can go out and tell people about Krishna. We can do everything that people do in the spiritual world. But we can do it here where it's needed, actually. God has sent even His great devotees, like Srila Prabhupada. He sends them to the material world to try to properly glorify Him and wake up everyone. Lord Chaitanya, God also comes Himself again and again. And He comes as Lord Chaitanya. He shows us, as by His own example, how to be a pure devotee. He wants to experience what it's like to be His own devotee. And so He becomes the best devotee. And He comes to the world and shows us like that. So let's read we started this, but we didn't read the purport yet. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute, apara potency, the symbol of mundane, feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two, that is, Lord Shiva and Maya, brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition. That faculty has to come from somewhere. We're rebellious against God, but we can't really rebel against God because we're servants of God. So in order to have the illusion that we're rebelling against God, He has to give us a crippled consciousness. And that crippled consciousness is born from the union of Shiva and Maya for us. The reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. So He has a procreative desire in the spiritual world, the amorous pastime by which He engages with His internal potency. And then there's a reflection of that in the material world where He creates the world where people are suffering in illusion, old age, death, disease, decay, and all that takes place. Purport by His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada. Sankarshan, possessed of creative desire, is the subjective portion of Krishna taking the initiative in bringing about the birth of the mundane world. So Sankarshan is one of the expansions of Krishna. He first expands as Lord Balaram, and then Lord Balaram expands as Mahasankarshan, and from Mahasankarshan comes the Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and another Sankarshan. And this Sankarshan is manifested in the material universe as an Anantasesha, the multi-hooded Naga who resides at the bottom of the universe and who becomes the bed, the floating bed for Garbhodakshay Vishnu to sit on. So all these different forms of Krishna, His different Vishnu expansions are explained by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, but it's very technical and detailed subject matter. It's a science, and they have different they have different functions in connection with the expansion, the creation of the universe, and also in the spiritual world with the expansion of different Vaikuntha planets. Lying in the causal water as the primal Purusha avatar, he casts his glance toward Maya, the limited potency. Such glance is the efficient cause of the mundane creation. So those of you who are familiar with, for example, the philosophy of Aristotle, you know that there's different kinds of causes, like 5 different kinds of causes or something. There's, the cause of a pot is, one of the causes is the teleological cause. It's to be used for something, carrying water or something. The efficient cause, there's a material cause, a lump of clay, an efficient cause, a potter, and so there's the different kinds of causes. So the glance of Vishnu is the efficient cause of the mundane creation. Shambhu, the symbol of masculine mundane procreation, is the dim halo of this reflected effulgence. It is this symbol which is applied to the organ of generation of Maya, the shadow of Rama, or the divine potency. So you're familiar with the Shiva Lingam. It's a union of a female yoni, a womb, and a lingam, or a male phallus. And this is the generation of material world is caused by this divine or godly union of these much greater beings. The first phase of the appearance of the mundane desire created by Mahavishnu is called the seminal principle of Mahat, or the perverted cognitive faculty. It is this which is identical with the mental principle ripe for procreative activity. The conception underlying it is that it is the will of the Purusha who creates by using the efficient and material principles. Purusha is a male principle, and Prakriti is a female principle. Purusha is also the enjoyer, the active principle. Prakriti is the potency, the energy, and the servant, or the enjoyed. These are the, Efficiency is Maya, or the productive feminine organ. So we have efficient cause and then efficiency. It is very difficult philosophy. The material principle is Shambhu, or the procreative masculine organ. Mahavishnu is Purusha, or the dominating divine person, wielding the will. Pradhana, or the substantive principle in the shape of the mundane entities, is the material principle. Nature, embodying the accommodating principle, Adhara, is Maya. The principle of embodied will, bringing about the intercourse of the two, is the dominating divine person, Purusha, subjective portion of Krishna, the manifester of the mundane world. All of these three are creators. The seed of amorous creative desire in Goloka is the embodiment of pure cognition. Okay, so we're talking about the creation of the material universe, but now he's talking about this hymn, this prayer of Lord Brahma, is all about glorifying Govinda, the Lord of Goloka, where he's just playing, and he's not concerning himself with manifesting the material universe or doing any kind of work, creating anything. He's just enjoying pure love, and that's the origin of everything. And that's the origin of pure cognition, the purified consciousness. The seed of sex desire to be found in this mundane world is that of Kali, etc., who are the shadows of the divine potency. The former, although it is the prototype of the latter, is located very far from it. That is, the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis in the spiritual world is very, very different from the pastime of the goddess creating this world for the rectification of wayward souls, let's say. And it's certainly very far from the pastime of sexual activity among conditioned souls also. It's completely different. There are people who, because of this detail of this, description of Krishna's loving pastimes, there are people who are pseudo-devotees who try to identify Krishna's pastimes with our own physical bodies and the physical lust. And even though the two things are like opposites, they try to conflate the two, and because of that, they've sort of obscured the real beauty and truth of Srimad Bhagavatam from the world so far. But now we're going to resurrect and glorify so that everyone will know Srimad Bhagavatam as the greatest literature of the world. The seed of the mundane sex desire is the perverted reflection in this mundane world of the seed, in the perverted reflection in this mundane world of the seed of the original creative desire. The process of the appearance of Shambhu is recorded in the 10th and 15th shlokas. So in Western culture, people will recognize this as Platonism, that in the writings, the dialogues that Plato wrote about Socrates' teachings in Greece, there was this idea that there's an ideal world, a world of forms where everything is logical and perfect, and knowledge in this world is like a sort of a reflection of that, but that this world is created as a perverted reflection or an imperfect simulacrum of the actual forms of that world. And love in this world, if you read like the Symposium, for example, is one of Plato's dialogues that talks about love and its different manifestations. And apparently in ancient Greek society, pederasty was a common thing, that a successful and wealthy man would have a lover to be like a young, beautiful adolescent boy, and that would by that relationship, the older man would then give the boy opportunities to advance in society socially and so forth. So when you read the Symposium and there's all these drunk Greeks at a party drinking wine and talking about love, it seems a little weird to us because it's a very different culture, and their idea of love is also the love between a husband and wife is considered sort of less exciting and interesting than love between a man and his adolescent teenage boy. But in the essence of it, if you read the whole story, the philosophy that Socrates is saying is that real love is directed toward the true form of all beauty, which is God. He doesn't say, use the word God specifically, but it's the idea is Krishna, that there's a completely beautiful, perfect person, and that the highest love is that. And if you can ever behold that person, you'll never again be interested in anything mundane, and everything will seem stale and lifeless to you and everything. So these ideas are there in Western culture also. In fact, and they're famous. The mathematician Alfred North Whitehead, the English mathematician, said that all Western philosophy is a series of footnotes to Plato. But there's this tension between this mystical Platonism, where people are trying to perceive that which is beyond the world that we can see with our senses, and this tendency to want to be more pragmatic. And nowadays, people are interested in material science and developing knowledge about the objective world that they can see through empiricism. And there's a great deal of distrust of spiritual authorities who might be cheating us, or who might tend to quarrel with one another and things like that through our history. But we're trying in this Sankirtan movement, by chanting Hare Krishna, all these difficult philosophical concepts are too difficult for people to mostly, but makes people tired to try to talk about them. But we just like to chant. And that chanting is, then you can feel it. And so I think this is a good time, before we get on to the next part of our program, to sing some songs and to chant some Hare Krishna, okay? you play cartels? Oh, you're going to play harmonium, huh? Oh, good. Attempting. Do you know the tunes that we use? Or?
Let me know if you know.
All right, see if you can follow along. We'll sing, what we usually sing on Saturdays is the songs to be sung at dawn. It's a little bit later than dawn, but people have braved the rain. Our devotees were chanting for rain. They were having a sacrifice, Sankirtan. It was a great drought. It's probably still a serious drought, and we should keep this chanting going. It's threatening the life of all people in California that they won't have enough water. And already, if you drive out in the countryside, the farmers don't get enough water for their crops now. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyar anasambhava," that all living beings need food that comes from grains, comes from vegetation, and all the grains come from rain. If you don't have rain, you can't get the grains. So then he said, "Yagyad bhavati parjanyo." The rain won't come if you don't have sacrifices. And yagya karma samudbhavaha. You can't have sacrifices without working. So the sacrifice in this age, prescribed for this age, is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So the devotees are going out and chanting Hare Krishna in public. And just as soon as they started doing that, sure enough, the rain started coming. But we need much more of it. But it's still hard to get to the temple in the morning driving on these rainy highways. All right, page 38 of our songbook, the Arunodaya Kirtana in Bengali language, from the Gitavali cycle of poems by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I hope I can remember it because I'm not going to be able to see it. 38. Udila aruna pura babhage Dwijamani gora amani jage Udila aruna pura babhage Dwijamani gora amani jage Vakata sammuha loya shate Gela nagara braje Vakata sammuha loya shate Gela nagara braje Tatai tatai bajaloko Kana kana tahe chancheroro Tatai tatai bajaloko Kana kana tahe chancheroro Preme dhala dhala shonara anga Charane nupure baje Preme dhala dhala shonara anga Charane nupure baje Mukunda madhava jadava hari Bolena bolore badana bhori Mukunda madhava jadava hari Bolena bolore badana bhori Miche nidabashe gelore rati Divasha sharira shaje Miche nidavashe gelore rati Divasha sharira shaje Emonna durlabha manava deho Payaki koro bhavana keho Emonna durlabha manava deho Maya kikoro bhavana keho ebena bhajile jashoda sutta charame poribelaje bhajile. Udita tapana hoile ashta dina gelo boli hoibe byashta tabe keno ebe allasha hoi na bhaja hridoya raje. Jivana anitya janahasha tahina nabidha vipadabha. Namashraya kori jatane tumi takaha apanna kaje. Jivera kalyana sadhana kam jagate ashiye madhuranam. Abidyati mira tapana rupe hridga gane biraje. Krishna nam shudha koriyapan jura bhakati vinoda pran. Krishna nam shudha jura bhakati vinoda pran. Nama bina kichu nahi ko aro choda bhuvana maje. Nama bina kichu nahi ko aro choda bhuvana maje. Jeev jago Gora chanda bole. Jeev jago jiva jago Gora chanda bole. Kota nidra jao maya pishachira kole. Bhoji bhoboli aeshe samsara bhitore. Aeshe samsara bhitore. Bhuliya rohile tumi avidyara bhare. Bhuliya rohile Tomare loite ami hoinu avatara. Ami bina bandho aro keyache tomara. Eneche oshodhi maya nashi barolagi. Oshodhi maya nashi barolagi. Hari nama maha mantra lao tumi magi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Poriya. Shri Hari Nama Mantra Loilo Magiya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Privrajakacharyastu Tarasata Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajakacharyastu Tarasata Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. So today's topic for discussion, we're doing topics these days rather than just going regular straight through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And today's topic is a very important topic, is respecting Vaishnavas, dealing with Vaishnavas, how to treat other people and especially other devotees of Krishna. And this is a very important topic. And I was inspired to speak about this topic because we have a group that reads the Srimad Bhagavatam together and then talks about it online. And we're reading in the 3rd canto. And we were reading the story of the cursing of Jaya and Vijaya. And there were some interesting aspects of that story as it's told in Srimad Bhagavatam that I wanted to share with you all. And in the course of sharing it, it also discloses something about the nature of this relationships with other Vaishnavas. And in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami teaches us that we should respect 3 different kinds of Vaishnavas in 3 different ways. Anyone who's chanting Hare Krishna, we have to respect them within our minds. So we should be very respectful to anyone, even if they're just chant Hare Krishna. Even if we're out on a kirtan in the street and some people walk up and they chant Hare Krishna, we should respect them. And those who've actually taken initiation and are following the practice of bhakti yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master, we should pay our obeisance to them with our bodies. And those who have actually achieved the perfection of yoga and are constantly engaged in pure devotional service without any other desire, without any interruption, those Mahabhagavatas, we should seek them out, find out who they are, try to meet one, and we should surrender to them. We should faithfully serve them. We should associate with them and become their disciples. So, but one important thing to remember is that all devotees are dear to Krishna, and devotees are like representatives of Krishna. And in this dark world, we don't get to know about Krishna except through his devotees. Krishna comes once in a long while to set things right. Of course, he's in everyone's heart. He's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's in the scriptures, he's in the deities. But especially, we can see Krishna among those who've dedicated their lives to his service, and we can learn to dedicate our own lives through them. So, it's very important to appreciate the Vaishnavas. In fact, there's a verse, I don't remember what scripture it's from, where Krishna says, I'm not in the hearts of the yogis who are doing austerities and meditation. I'm not in the temples, in the deities in the temples where people are worshiping me and offering things to me. I'm not in Vaikuntha, in the kingdom of God. Where I am is where my devotees with faith are discussing my glories, discussing my pastimes, my qualities together, my names, chanting my names. So, of course, he is in Vaikuntha, he is in the deities, he is in, but he's more completely present in the discussions among devotees about Krishna. So the devotees are that important. So I thought I would read from this story of the cursing of Jai and Vijay. And I don't think did I mark it? No, I didn't mark it, but I can find it quickly. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in chapter 15, the title of the chapter is Description of the Kingdom of God. And this is describing how Lord Narayan is situated in the Vaikuntha planets, full of all opulence and great splendor, along with millions and millions of faithful devotees. I'll just read some of the verses before I get to read some of the purports. Lord Brahma said, "My 4 sons, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, who were born from my mind, are your predecessors. Sometimes they travel." This is Lord Brahma speaking to the demigods, like Lord Indra and others. I'm in 3rd canto, chapter 15, and I'll tell you what, don't put the verse up yet until I start reading a purport. So right now I'm reading from verse 12. So before the demigods were born, the 4 sages, the 4 Kumaras were born, and Lord Brahma is talking about them. Sometimes they travel throughout the material and spiritual skies without any definite desire. After thus traveling all over the universes, they also entered into the spiritual sky, for they were freed from all material contamination. In the spiritual sky, there are spiritual planets known as Vaikunthas. Vaikuntha means without anxiety, which are the residents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His pure devotees, and are worshipped by the residents of all the material planets. In the Vaikuntha planets, all the residents are similar in form to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They all engage in devotional service to the Lord without desires for sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha planets is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original person and who can be understood through the Vedic literature. He is full of the uncontaminated mode of goodness, with no place for passion or ignorance. He contributes religious progress for the devotees. In those Vaikuntha planets there are many forests, which are very auspicious. In those forests the trees are desire trees, and in all seasons they are filled with flowers and fruits, because everything in the Vaikuntha planets is spiritual and personal. We were reading in Brahma Samhita this morning that the trees in the spiritual world are desire trees, and the houses there are built out of Chintamani gems that are desire, wish-fulfilling stones. And the cows are wish-fulfilling cows. So nobody there has any of their desires checked. Yes, go ahead.
But when you are in Golok Vrindavan, right, Prabhu, the only desire is to serve Krishna, right?
Yes.
So what's the, these things, right? The desire trees or all this opulence is really not the residents really don't care about them in one sense, right?
Well, we need something to serve Krishna with. We can't serve Krishna. Of course, Krishna is served by love. Srila Prabhupada points out that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Patram pushpam palanto yam yome bhakta prashati tadaham bhakti paritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. That if one offers me with love, with bhakti, a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or a little water, because of that bhakti, I will eat it, I will accept it, I will enjoy it. This is Krishna's mercy to us, that He wants to exchange. He wants us, this is a loving exchange. We offer something, and He's satisfied with our offering. So Srila Prabhupada says you don't need to be very rich to find a flower or a fruit or some water. Even a poor man can find a little water and some little, you could make a cup out of a leaf if you can't afford a piece of a clay cup or something like that. You could somehow or another put some water in a cup and then pray to Krishna, my dear Lord, please accept this. So we don't need a lot of material opulences to serve Krishna. But that's what material opulences are for. Actually, that's what wealth and everything is for. Wealth, beauty, learning, the ability to speak articulately, the ability to fame. Just think some movie stars are so influential that, if they start wearing a certain kind of watch, then everybody wears. In fact, the people fall over when you go to Hollywood, to the Oscars or something. They give you a swag bag with a bunch of presents, and the reason is that because if the celebrities are wearing their jewelry or using their kind of perfume or their kind of thing, they think everybody else will wear it, everybody else will do it. So it's a power. So if someone has this power to be famous, what should they use it for? The tragedy last week, we had one of our American actors, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Turned out I didn't know, but he had a heroin addiction problem, and he died of an overdose in his 40s. A young man who was famous and wealthy and could, was considered very good at the craft of being an actor and portraying different kinds of characters on film. So, but if someone has those things going for them, they could use them in Krishna's service to glorify Krishna, to tell people, I like chanting Hare Krishna. Like Nick Nolte, the actor, has recently been telling some interviewers, I like to chant Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishnas come over. I had a problem with alcoholism, but somehow by chanting Hare Krishna, my desire to drink has gone away. So this is nice. They're using that fame. Or the other morning I was thinking, Boy George, another heroin addict, another person who had a lot of trouble and problems in his life, yet he became very famous as the front man of a band called Culture Club. Those of you from India probably never heard of it, but it was popular in the 1980s. And he would dress as a woman and have a lot of makeup on and stuff like that. But he sang a beautiful song about chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. He met devotees. He liked devotees. And he made a hit record with the whole Hare Krishna mantra in it. It's called Bow Down Mr. Chant Hare Krishna. And it became a hit pop record. So I thought, if you have these opulences, you have wealth, you have fame, you have the ability to, sell your music or your thoughts and everything like that, that what better use of these things is there than to try to glorify Krishna properly? So I'm sorry now I forgot. So why is there desire trees in the spiritual world? What's the use of them? Well, because people want to use them for serving Krishna. In the spiritual world, they're milking the cows to make yogurt and to make sweets. They cook the milk down; it becomes very thick and sweet, and they put some sugar in it, and they feed Krishna with it. So they need things to serve Krishna with, and similarly, we need things to serve Krishna with. The verse that we read in the Brahma Samhita was about how men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas by gaining their respective greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. Somebody has to go around in some vehicle, So it's not that they enjoy, it's not that Srila Prabhupada, wanted to ride around in airplanes around the world. He had this desire to travel and see the world and enjoy and ride around in airplanes. He was very satisfied to sit in Vrindavan and think about Krishna, but because he was duty-bound, because his spiritual master told him to preach Krishna consciousness, to glorify Krishna in the Western countries where people didn't know about Krishna and didn't know this whole culture, then he rode around in airplanes all over the world and boats, and he took the Jaladuta boat. So these are conveyances. And then when he came to a temple, the devotees would pick him up in the airport in a car. And because the Western culture, even though there is a great disparity between wealthy people and poor people, they try to keep it hidden somewhat because people get envious, and they try to, nobody knows how much, even the rich people, they dress down and everything. But in Vedic culture, when you respect your spiritual master, you bow down to him, you offer prayers to him, and this kind of ostentatious show of hierarchy and difference was something that would stand out to the Western journalists, who had also heard lurid stories of gurus who exploited their devotees and things like that. So when Prabhupada would come in the airport and they would pick him up in a nice rented car, or maybe somebody had a good Cadillac, or the reporters would say, or maybe one time they got him in a Rolls Royce or something. Oh, why does he have such a good car? This is one of the things that they would ask in the interview, and or they would ask him, why do you have a good car? Srila Prabhupada didn't care for cars. He was living in Vrindavan, walking all over the place. Every day he would walk to see all the major temples and stuff. He didn't have any car. But because he was spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, his disciples had provided him with a nice conveyance when he came from the airport. So the reporter pounced on that. Why do you have a nice car? And he was saying, actually, I'm the representative of God for my disciples. So they have to treat me as they would treat God. So they should give me a golden car if they could. Why just the Rolls Royce? They should give me a car made out of gold. One that could fly in the sky, whatever. He didn't say that, but one could get the best. You want to get the best and offer it to Krishna. So therefore, in the spiritual world, there are desire trees. And the quality is, though, in this world, to get a golden car, you have to work very, very hard, to find some gold. And people struggle and fight over it, and you have a little gold, and it will be the cause of a war or something like that. But in the spiritual world, it's very easy to get any quantity of gold you want. If you wanted to make let's say a throne for Krishna, for him to sit on, you can very easily get all kinds of gold. And you can very easily convert it into a throne. It doesn't take this kind of hard struggle. So this is the quality of the spiritual world. But because everyone is doing it for Krishna, there's harmony there. There's no competition. They're not saying, no, that should be my throne. They're saying, oh, you made such a nice throne for Krishna, I like that. And that's what I'm getting to in this description of Vaikuntha. I'll tell you which verse to put up in a second. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. So there's the beautiful fragrance of the breeze there, but even that doesn't attract them because they're so attracted to their service. So this is the verse. You can put up text 18, the first of the several verses we'll be discussing today. And we'll read the purport. Do you have the Sanskrit or? Okay, good. Aha. Can you all see it? Paravata. Please repeat. Anyabritta. Sarasa. Chakravaka. These are names of different birds. Paravatanya Brita Sarasa Chakravaka. Datyuha. Why don't I read the words? Let's go back. I'll read the word for words. Paravata. Pigeons. Anyabrita, cuckoo, sarasa, crane, chakravaka. I don't know what that kind of bird is. Datyuha, gallinule. That's a kind of like a duck. It's not exactly a duck, but it's a water bird like that. Hangsa, swan. Shuka, parrot. Datyu hahangsa shuka titiri barhinang yaha. Datyu hahangsa shuka titiri barhinang yaha. Titiri. We'll go back to word for words. Titiri. Partridge. My neighbor right behind my house has partridges in their yard, and they make some singing. Sometimes they sound like they're laughing. Barhinam, of the peacock. Yaha, which. Tatyu hahangsa shukatitiri barhinang yaha. We're going to read the whole thing later. Kolaha laha. Kolaha laha. Tumult. You can imagine when all the birds are singing, the peacocks are going, ah, ah, and all the different birds are singing their different songs. The partridges are making their laughing sound. It's like a tumultuous sound. Viramate, stops. Achidamatram, temporarily. Uchahi, loudly. Bringa Adhipe, king of the bumblebees. Harikatam, the glories of the Lord. Iva, as. Gayamane, while singing. Okay, let's do it all together. Not all together, but repeat after me, but we'll do the whole one line at a time. Paravatanya Britasara Sachakravaka. Paravatanya Britasara Sachakravaka. Datyu hahangsa shukatitiri barhinang yaha. Kolahalo viramate chiramatramuchair. Bringkadipe harikatam ivagayamane. Paravatanya Britasara Sachakravaka. Datyu hahangsa shukatitiri barhinang yaha. Kolahalo viramate chiramatram uchair. Bringadipe harikatam ivagayamane. Before I forget, I have to give some things to Hari Sankirtan. No, you just say your obeisances. Don't let me disturb. All right, please, each of you try to lead the chant of this shloka, okay? Parabatanya Britasara Sachakravaka. Datyu hahangsa shukatitiri barhinang yaha. Kolahalo viramate chiramatramuchair. Bringadipe harikatam ivagayamane. Paravatanya Britasara Sachakravaka. Tatyu hahangsa shukatitiri barhinang yaha. Kolahalo viramate chiramatramuchair. Bringadhipe harikatam iva gayamane. Parabatanya britasara sachakravaka. Tatyuha hansa shakachitiri barhinamya. Kola halo viramate chiramatram uchayar. Bringadhipe harikatam iva gayamane. Translation: when the king of the bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravak, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Please repeat. When the king of the bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravak, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. So we'll read the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. There is no difference between the birds there and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In the material world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikunthas, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravak, and the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. So Lord Brahma is first, before he tells the story of how Jaya and Vijaya are cursed, he's describing how the four Kumaras came to the spiritual world. And he's giving a description of what the spiritual world is like, and how there's opulence there, and the inhabitants ride around on airplanes, and they have bodily features that are very, very beautiful, just like Vishnu's, just like Narayan's. And he's giving some idea of the atmosphere there, that in the material world, everybody's happy to hear the sound of their own voice, the sound of their own ideas, their thoughts. They have their own sensibilities. And everyone else, they tend to think, well, it's okay, but it's a little not quite right. Let me correct you. But in the spiritual world, even the cranes and the swans and the cuckoos and the peacocks and partridges, and pigeons, they stop the music of the transcendental music of the birds there to listen to the bees who are humming about the glories of the Lord. Yes?
Sorry for asking this stupid question. My understanding of the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha Loka, so far what I've heard and read is that it's a place where only liberated souls are living.
Yes.
But after reading this, what I'm trying to understand is that there are birds similar to what we have in this world, like peacock, partridges, all these pigeons, all these birds. And I've also read the word beasts there. It means if there are birds and animals similar to what we have here, at a spiritual platform. So is there a kind of a killing or the food cycle kind of thing, like animals are killing animals and they are feeding on other animals? So how, when we compare that world with our world, how is their cycle running?
So that's the original world. And the bees that we have here are conditioned souls that have, by the nature of their deeds and their association with nature in a certain way, their consciousness has become very embarrassed and crippled and low down. So they've had to take a birth in an animal species like the bees, the insects. Bees have their own kind of society. It's very organized. They have queens, they have drones, they have workers, and they do different things. They go out every day to collect nectar from flowers and things. They have their own difficulties too. People don't like them because they can sting, so sometimes people will spray them with things or kill. Or sometimes people catch them and give them a home so they can collect the honey that the bees make. The bees make all this honey, but then people take it away from them, and so forth. So this is the life of a conditioned soul in the form of a bee or in the form of a bird. Actually, if you see the birds and the squirrels and the dogs and all the different animals around, they're nervous, they're frightened, they things can hurt them, and they don't want to get hurt. The human being has a much more expanded consciousness and can actually engage in philosophical discussion and fine language to be able to talk about abstract concepts and stuff. But a dog doesn't have much memory, but he's going around, he smells something good and he wants to taste something good, but then somebody comes to smack him and he runs away and yelps. And dogs have their own society too, with a leader. They run in packs and they howl at the moon and whatever they do. So in the material world, these are different levels of people with different levels of consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that those who are predominantly in the mode of goodness, they take their birth in the superior planets among the demigods, which we can't even hardly perceive as human beings. And those in the mode of passion, they take their birth as human beings in human society, and they struggle to achieve things. And those that cultivate the mode of ignorance, they take birth in animal species like bees and birds and squirrels and dogs and other things, and plants. Even in greater ignorance, plants can even move. They just have to sit there. What does Shakespeare say? I'm just trying to remember one of the sonnets. Bare ruined choirs were once the sea birds. I don't remember. There's a beautiful sonnet describing his life when yellow leaves or none or few do hang upon those boughs which shake against the cold, bare ruined choirs where late the sweet birds sang. So he's describing his body like a tree, and it's trembling against the old age, and his hair is falling out and stuff. But anyway, the life of a tree is difficult in this world. But in the spiritual world, the trees can walk around, and they can do anything they want, and they're fully conscious, Krishna conscious. There's trees in the spiritual world, the bees in the spiritual world, these birds in the spiritual world are actually pure souls that are more advanced than the greatest yogis and sages, and therefore they're living in the spiritual world. We're seeing, in this world, we see everything from the ground up, so we're thinking, wow, the demigods, the sages, they're very great. But in the spiritual, and they are very great compared to us, but in the spiritual world is the main world, the real world. There are billions and billions of completely perfect living beings. Unlimited. There's 3 times more things going on in the spiritual world than even in all of the material universes combined. And we're in just only one small universe. But we see this small universe as like the important thing, but actually it's just the prison where people go when they rebel from the spiritual world. So in Vaikuntha, you can have a form there according to your desire as a bird or as a bee or as a tulsi plant, and your flowers can be offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Go ahead.
So this explanation here in comparing like the sound and vibrations of birds and then stopping their chirping sound, so is it a metaphorical explanation just to explain the devotees, or is this actually happening there?
It's actually happening. But it may also have resonate with metaphorical meaning to us when we hear about it. And there really is, Krishna really does have cows in the spiritual world. It's not like we're just imagining cows because there are cows here. But Krishna actually likes cows, and he plays with cows. And he has a special kind of relationship with those who want to serve him as cows, and others want to serve him as bees or birds or flowers. And it's described, even when Krishna comes to earth, he brings his associates with him, and we hear descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam of how the trees bend down and offer him flowers and things like that. And it actually happens. It's hard for us to conceive because it doesn't happen in the world we see. But there's a lot more in the world that we don't see that we can learn about by hearing from those who have authoritative knowledge. And so yes, there's a spiritual world, but the thing that struck me was the harmony, was that in the spiritual world, the birds, some of whom can sing very beautifully, they're still struck with wonder at the glorification that is being done by the king of the bees, who's buzzing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And they stop to listen to that, and they appreciate it. So the idea is that we should appreciate the service of other devotees. We should learn to appreciate and see. That's how in the spiritual world, there's no envy. People actually appreciate others. And they appreciate how others are serving Krishna and glorifying Krishna. And they don't think, oh, I'll surpass him. He tried to serve, they don't try to put the other persons down and say that there's these faults in their service. So that description of that world is going on, and now we go on. Although flowering plants like the Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpala, Champaka, Arna, Punaga, Naga, Keshara, Bakula, Lily, and Parijata are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, for Tulasi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. So I misspoke a little while ago. I said you could be a Tulsi plant in the spiritual world, but you can't. Tulsi's already there. She's a great devotee, so we can be a servant of Tulsi. That's what we pray, that we want her to make us her maidservant, because she's the king of the flowering plants, her little manjaris. Krishna loves them so much. He won't eat anything unless there's little Tulsi on top of each offering. And the Tulsi is wonderful because it's offered to Krishna. When in a couple months, our Swami, B.V. Madhava Swami, will come here. Have you met him? And he is a great devotee of Tulsi Devi. He'll tell you all about the wonderful benefits of Srimati Tulsi Devi. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplanes made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. The ladies in the Vaikuntha planets are as beautiful as the goddesses of fortune herself. Such transcendently beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses and their leg bangles tinkling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls, which are bedecked at intervals with golden borders, in order to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have a temple of Krishna here, and we should try to resemble Vaikuntha. There's no dust, nothing gets dirty, but nevertheless they're cleaning it anyway as their service. So here we should clean and clean and clean, and clean the clean spots even, so that we can emulate what they're doing in the spiritual world. So anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. All of this is so beautiful. I don't want to skip ahead, but we're running out of time. The goddesses of fortune worship the Lord in their own gardens by offering tulsi leaves on the coral-paved banks of the transcendental reservoirs of water. I can hardly stop reading this stuff, but I wanted to get to the point that wow, there's so much beautiful stuff in this Srimad Bhagavatam. Beautiful poetry. Thus the great sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar, upon reaching the above-mentioned Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, by dint of their mystic yoga performance, perceived unprecedented happiness. They found that the spiritual sky was illuminated by highly decorated airplanes, piloted by the best devotees of Vaikuntha, and was predominated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After passing through the 6 entrances of Vaikuntha Puri, the Lord's residence, without feeling astonishment at all the decorations, they saw at the 7th gate 2 shining beings of the same age, armed with maces and adorned with the most valuable jewelry, earrings, diamonds, helmets, garments, etc. The 2 doormen were garlanded with fresh flowers, which attracted intoxicated bees, and which were placed around their necks and between their 4 blue arms. From their arched eyebrows, discontented nostrils, and reddish eyes, they appeared somewhat agitated. There's bees in the Vaikuntha, and everybody wears fresh flowers, and the flowers don't decay, and they don't we make a fresh garland, but then after a few days it becomes dried out, or even sooner. But there, everything is fresh, and the bees are all buzzing around it. And the bees don't bother anybody, they don't sting anybody, and nobody bothers the bees, but they just glorify and make the atmosphere all that more beautiful. So they appeared agitated. Why? Because the 4 Kumaras don't usually come to the spiritual world. At that time, the 4 Kumaras were not yet pure devotees. They were sages who were attracted to philosophical appreciation of the absolute truth in its impersonal feature. And their hearts hadn't been moved, bless you, their hearts hadn't been moved to love Krishna in his personal form as devotees. So these gatekeepers barred their entry into the innermost part of the Vaikuntha city where Narayan lives. The great sages headed by Sanaka had opened doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds they entered the 7th door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the 6 other doors which were made of gold and diamonds. The 4 boy sages who had nothing to cover their bodies but the atmosphere. In other words, they went naked. These boys, they were sons of Brahma, and Brahma wanted to create offspring throughout the universe. So he created these wonderful boys from his mind. But then they didn't want to take on the responsibility of creation. They wanted to achieve spiritual perfection. So they refused to grow up. They remain in the body of 5-year-old boys, but they're highly intelligent sages, and they didn't get any sexual desire or anything because they just remained as little boys. And this made Lord Brahma angry, but that's a different story. But they inhabit the Maharloka. There's different realms, and the demigods inhabit, like the demigods, like the sun and the moon and Indra. They inhabit a special sort of realm of called Svargaloka, of the universe. But above that Svargaloka, there are sages, upademigods, that inhabit a place called Maharloka, and they have Siddhaloka. In Maharloka, there are the planetary systems of the Siddhis, the Tapas, their Tapaloka. The perfected yogis live there. And the 4 Kumaras are like the head of all these sages. They live up there. But they were able to travel to Vaikuntha by their mystic power, even though they weren't yet devotees. And the Vaikuntha, the doormen, the gatekeepers, thought, what are they doing here? They're not devotees. And they tried to bar them. So the 4 sages who had nothing to cover their bodies but the atmosphere looked only 5 years old, even though they were the oldest of all living creatures, and had realized the truth of the self. But when the porters, who happened to possess a disposition quite unpalatable to the Lord, saw the sages, they blocked their way with their staffs, despising their glories, although the sages did not deserve such treatment at their hands. Unfortunately, I had about 2 more hours worth of stuff to talk about, but it's getting late. So anyway, the Kumaras were blocked by the sages, and to make a long story short, the Kumaris cursed the sages. They thought, "What are you doing here?" The sages said, "Who are these 2 persons who have developed such a discordant mentality? Even though they are posted in the service of the Lord in the highest position and are expected to have developed the same qualities of the Lord, how are these 2 persons living in Vaikuntha? Where is the possibility of an enemy's coming into this kingdom of God?" The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no enemy. Who could be envious of him? Probably these two persons are impostors. Therefore, they suspect others to be like themselves. So, if we want to go to the spiritual world, I'm going to have to greatly condense all the stuff I wanted to talk about, because I wanted to talk also about the story of Ambarish Maharaj and how Lord Vishnu protected him from the curse of Durvasa Muni and other things. But the gist is that if we want to live in the spiritual world, we have to be qualified like the devotees of the spiritual world, with this quality of appreciating the other devotees, non-enviousness, non-enmity. The spiritual world is full of all harmony because everyone loves Krishna, and Krishna's in the center, and there's no competition there. In this world, everyone's trying to be the center themselves, and so there's always some kind of competition, ego. One man meets another one, he wants to establish his... Yes, please.
It is always possible to refrain it. Even if you feel like this animosity coming, you have always the opportunity to refrain it, observe it, and then react to it.
It's always possible, but sometimes we fail to refrain. And we get agitated, we get angry at someone, you know. There's road rage. People are driving in their cars, and then somebody stops and almost has an accident, and the other person wants to come out and fight with them. Why did you do that? You should be more careful. So yes, in our conditioned state, even though we might know that it's best to refrain and not get agitated and try to see things philosophically and try to understand that that person is just like me. I may make mistakes too sometimes, whatever, but our nature will overcome us with anger sometimes. But in the spiritual world, there's nothing to be angry about. No one is negligent, no one cuts you off in traffic. All the airplanes are flying around, they're golden airplanes, they're shining. In fact, it's illuminating the world that they're flying around in these golden airplanes. And the airplanes themselves are living beings. They have wings and they fly, golden wings. And they fly and shine, these vimanas. And there's never a traffic jam. They don't need to have the red lights and green lights. People just are in perfect harmony there. And therefore, when the sages were stopped by the gatekeepers, they perceived, what's wrong here? And they cursed them. You have to leave Vaikuntha. The sages cursed them, you have to leave Vaikuntha. And then the sages immediately recognized their mistake, and they said, please don't let us forget Krishna as we descend down into the material world. And there was this discussion going on there, so they immediately begged Krishna to help them, basically. And Lord Narayan immediately came there, as he does for his servants. And when the four Kumaras saw Lord Narayan, then a change took place in them, and they became pure devotees. So this is an important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada mentions, that even though they were already fixed in the transcendental realization of impersonalism, when they actually saw the form of Narayan and smelled, it was important for them, they smelled the fragrance of the tulsi mixed with sandalwood on Lord Narayan's lotus feet. Then a change came over their bodies, their senses changed, everything changed, and they became pure devotees, and they became astonished by the beauty of Lord Narayan, and they began to offer prayers to him. But then, Lord Narayan was pleased with their prayers, and then he spoke to them. And he told them that, I worship you, you're Brahmanas. He told them like that. And he told them that when my servants make a mistake and they do something wrong, it's like a scar on my own body. And my servants should always be respecting the Brahmanas and shouldn't commit any offense to the Brahmanas. And therefore I feel like, you shouldn't just punish them. I should be punished too. It's my fault too. This is how the Lord actually spoke to these sages. And it made the sages very worried. They were bewildered. They couldn't understand why is the Lord, we're just finally seeing the Lord, and we see how He's the Supreme Person, and He's perfect, and He's the source of everything. Why is He saying He worships us? They thought maybe He's really mad at us, and He's going to punish us too. And they offered more prayers. Anyway, I wanted to read that part of the Bhagavatam, but I'm running out of time. But it's a very beautiful part of the Bhagavatam. So what I recommend for everyone is to get the copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you can't afford it, or you're traveling and whatever, you can see it online. Like here they have the Vedabase.com. You can just go to Vedabase.com and you can read this section, 3rd canto, chapter 15 and chapter 16. And you see the verses, but if you click on the link to each one, then you'll see the Sanskrit and the purport also, the Srila Prabhupada's commentary. But the essential thing that I wanted to talk about is that Krishna wants human society to work in a certain way, that the qualified brahmanas, not just people who are born in the family of brahmanas, but people who have the quality of Vedic knowledge and realization and self-control and austerity and mercy and cleanliness like brahmanas do, that they should be worshipped by human society and should be never offered any interference like the Jaya and Vijaya had stopped them from going. They should be allowed to go anywhere. And especially, not just the brahmanas, but greater than the brahmanas is the vaishnavas, those who've realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who dedicate their lives to worshiping Him. That they should be... We meet many devotees. Here we are a society of devotees, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And many of us, we may not be perfect devotees like the residents of Vaikuntha. We may still have bad qualities, anarthas. But Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says that everyone should overlook those qualities of devotees. We shouldn't feel that people should overlook our own bad qualities. We should be trying to purify ourselves. That's what devotees are. The devotees are always trying to purify themselves. But we should be willing to overlook the qualities of other devotees who are chanting Hare Krishna, who've dedicated their lives. And even if they may still be a little crude and rough, especially Srila Prabhupada made many devotees in the Western countries outside of India that aren't familiar with the Vedic culture and the fine culture of Vaishnavas. This was his mission. He was sent by his spiritual master. It's still our mission to try to make devotees from all over the world. Now the world is gathered in Sochi, Russia, to have the Olympics. And whenever I see these international, festivals where everyone's coming to, now they're coming to glorify sport and how well can people run and jump and ski and, do whatever they do in the Winter Olympics. They ski and then they shoot something, what's that called? Biathlon or something. They ski somewhere and then they shoot a target with a gun. But anyway, whatever they're doing. But it makes me think how this world, it's a smaller world now than it was even 100 years ago. People are all on the internet. We talk to each other. We see each other immediately. We can see things from satellites and we can record them and watch them later and Skype each other. And there's communication. Transportation is easier now. The airplanes are flying. This world culture should learn about Krishna culture. We should make this world more like Vaikuntha and less like demoniac culture. I was thinking, we have a French devotee here today. I was thinking of the playwright Jean-Paul Sartre, existentialist, atheist philosopher, really a genius guy, but unfortunately in our history, the religion and the church took a very dominant role in society for a while in Europe, and then it was corrupt, and there were problems, and then there were fights, and people became very distrustful of religion and more enamored by materialistic science, and so there were atheists, and then the atheist philosophers who were saying, how can we make sense of the world even in an atheistic world and stuff. But I was thinking of he won a prize, I think a Nobel Prize for a play called Huis Clos. No exit, they say in English. But the idea was that hell is other people having to sit with people you can't stand and see all their faults and qualities, and they're just irritating you and annoying you and everything. So Vaikuntha is the opposite of that. Vaikuntha is that the kingdom of God is when we see God is represented in all his devotees. Then we become qualified to enter that kingdom. We won't be barred from the entrance. We have to learn to live in the community and the association of devotees. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada created this society for Krishna consciousness as a society where you can associate with devotees and enjoy talking about Krishna with devotees. And you have to be able to appreciate devotees, even though some of them may still have some rough edges, you know. And that becomes an austerity too, because you don't have to let people take advantage of you. You don't have to let people do things that are wrong. You have your service to do, and you want to do it right, and you want to see that everything is done correctly. So it becomes an art to know how to avoid confrontation with people who are doing things wrong, but yet to properly preserve, you know, your own peace and your own dignity and do your own service correctly. And there have to be leaders also who can correct people and say, no, you can't do that, you can do this. So how to organize, Hare Krishna, how to organize the society of devotees and live as a society of devotees is a constant challenge, and it's also a very important aspect of devotional service. That if we want to enter into the atmosphere of Vaikuntha, where all the perfect devotees are, we would stand out. If we went there now, like even these sages, the 4 Kumaras went there, and there was something that they were perceived. Of course, it was a mistake to stop them, but they were perceived like, what are you doing here? Why are you you're not pure devotees. Only pure devotees usually come here. But if we went there in our current state, we would stand out that we were messing up. Like I was saying, the airplanes are all going in perfect harmony, but we would be in the way, and they're bumping in. The airplanes would be bumping into us. Like, why are you there? You're not. Because so we have to become respectful of all devotees and appreciative of all devotees, and then we can enter into that society where people live in perfect harmony. And that's part of the mission. If you look at when Prabhupada formed the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he had 7 principles, and we're trying to glorify Krishna through the publication of literature and so forth. But we're actually also trying to show people a more natural and harmonious way of life, even economically, politically. We're trying to establish farm communities where people can live simply and raise their own crops and not have social discord, because everything is centered on Krishna. So it's a challenge, and it's a great service to be able to actually learn how to socialize as devotees. So let's have a little discussion before we end. If someone has some comments or questions or anything. Haribol Prabhu, welcome. What's your good name? Vishal? Jai. So you came sort of the end, but we were talking about the... Oh, you were watching it online, okay. Do you have any comments? Okay, go ahead. Hari Sankirtan.
In one of the translations was written, the Kumaras ask, right, like how is somebody who is envious staying here in Vaikuntha?
Yeah.
At the same time, say that we are all part of either Vaikuntha or Golok, because we became envious, we came down to this material world. So how do we understand the difference? If we are not supposed to be envious, how are we envious at the first place?
No, he was asking that earlier. How did we ever become envious? We don't know. It's mysterious, because no one ever leaves Vaikuntha. No one ever falls from Vaikuntha. And at the same time, we've fallen somehow. So Srila Prabhupada says no one can trace out the history of when someone actually fell. From time immemorial. Therefore we're called Nitya Badha. There's 2 classes of jivas. One class is Nitya Siddha, and they're always engaged in pure devotional service in the spiritual world. And the other class is called Nitya Badha. They're always bound in actions and reactions. So, and then Prabhupada tells us, but a Nitya Badha can become a Nitya Siddha. So there are some devotees actually who challenge that and say that the Siddhanta is different. But I have to accept what Srila Prabhupada says, that Nitya Badha means we're eternally conditioned because we've been conditioned since before the beginning of time. Material time has time is eternal, but before the material elements are created and there's no motion, time is measured by things moving with respect to one another. So before the material universes are created, there's no time. The spiritual world, there's spiritual, transcendental time, which doesn't pass away. We read that in the Brahma Samhita, in this description. It's without, for half a moment, right. It's I worship that transcendental seat. The flute is the favorite attendant. Effulgence is full of transcendental bliss. Milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk. Where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away, even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka, only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. So we've been in the material world for many creations, coming and going. And another description is sometimes there that, when we came out of Mahavishnu at the beginning of creation, we were sleeping dormant inside the body of Mahavishnu. And then we came out to get a material body made of 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements, and begin doing more activities. So we have always the opportunity to go to the realm of pure devotional service, where everyone is dedicating everything to serving Krishna, or the realm of exploitation, where people are trying to exploit everything. So being marginal, having marginal independence, as we talked about before, we can choose one or the other. We always have that choice, to become pure devotees or to become lazy in the matter of devotional service and become selfish, self-centered beings. So we always have that choice, and this process of chanting Hare Krishna, sadhana bhakti, is a process of training us to make the right choice all the time. And the pure devotees make the right choice at every second. One time Srila Prabhupada was praying, and a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, "Why are you praying?" He was praying to the deities. What are you praying? And Srila Prabhupada said, "I'm praying that I may not fall down from devotional service." And the devotee said, "But Srila Prabhupada, you're a pure devotee. You can't fall down." And Srila Prabhupada says, "A pure devotee can't fall down because he's always praying that he won't fall down." So I'm not sure exactly if I'm answering your question, but it's mysterious how we ever got here, because we know that our eternal nature is to be servants of Krishna. But somehow or another we've forgotten that nature. In that song we sang this morning, actually we didn't read the purport to that song, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, later in the 3rd canto, there's a description of how the soul, the baby in the womb, the fetus in the womb, sometimes becomes conscious that he was a devotee in a previous life, or he was a yogi, and he says, "Oh man, why am I trapped? Oh Lord, why am I trapped here in this condition as a fetus in a womb with my back bent over, and there's things biting me. Sometimes my mother eats spicy food and it burns my skin. And, it's because I didn't perfect the process of devotional service in my previous life. And now they're remembering and they're very feelingly praying that this time when I come out, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to you. People, when they say there's no atheists in foxholes, when you're suffering and, you're really scared, people then turn to pray to God and say, protect me, and I promise this time I'll do it right. And so that's here in this song that Lord Chaitanya is calling, that he says, you promised me. You came into this world of birth and death saying, my Lord, I will certainly worship you. But you have forgotten this promise and remained in great ignorance. So sometimes the baby in the womb, the fetus in the womb is praying like that to God. I'm going to come out and I'm going to be very, very perfect this time, and I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm not going to watch television and eat untouchable food and things like that. I'm just going to eat Krishna prasadam and chant Hare Krishna. And my friends are only going to be devotees. I'm not going to have any friends who like to go to wrestling matches for entertainment or whatever, But then you come out and you're a baby and everybody's praising you and you're trying to make sense of how, trying to figure out how to talk and how to see things and how to hold things and stuff, and you just forget everything. And then you may come into bad association and develop bad habits. So fortunately, if you're fortunate, you can take birth in a nice, clean family who teaches you good habits, and you learn from childhood how to worship Krishna and remember Krishna. And then you come in contact with the spiritual master and you dedicate yourself, and you always chant japa every morning, and this will be like protection and protect you. But why did people leave Vaikuntha, or did they ever leave Vaikuntha? These are questions that different people have different answers. There are devotees who say, nobody ever left Vaikuntha, we've never been there yet. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiva Dharma, he says that these kinds of ideas, we can't, because we're conditioned souls, we can't think of anything without dividing it into past, present, and future. We have a sort of a sense of time like that. In the spiritual world, time isn't really divided that way. So it doesn't make much sense to say, first we were here and then we were there, and how did we first get here and first get there, and stuff. But we're limited in the way we conceptualize things and the way we use our words. So we can say, first, we couldn't have been there yet, because if we were there, we would have fallen, and nobody falls from there. But somehow, so Srila Prabhupada said, don't argue about it. He gave a letter one time, and he said that people like to dispute things logically. And there was one tall tree, palm tree with a tall fruit on it, and a crow came there, and he landed on the branch, and then the fruit fell down. He's just giving an example. And then the bird flew away. And then different logicians came there, and they said, the fruit was very ripe, and just before the bird landed, the fruit fell down, and it startled the bird, and he flew away. And someone else said, no, it was because the bird started to land on the branch, that little extra weight of the bird dropped the fruit, and then that frightened him, and he flew away. And they all have different explanations of the causes and effects and things. And Prabhupada said, don't waste your time trying to figure out how we first came here, because it's said that we never can trace that out. But now we're here, and what we really have to do is get back to where we belong, back to home, back to Godhead. By the way, in that book about Bhaktisiddhanta, you can see it down there, the yellow book in the bottom shelf down there, it's Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, right? And it gives the history of Bhaktisiddhanta and his preaching mission and so forth. And in the third volume, there are some appendices that talk about different things. And they have the first article, or an article from the first edition of the Harmonist magazine that was published in English. And the article, I believe, was written by Bhaktisiddhanta himself about, what is the mission of the Gaudiya Math organization. And that article is saying that the mission is to bring people back home, back to Godhead. So that's where Srila Prabhupada he named his magazine Back to Godhead. That we're going back to our original home. That we've been separated from our home, and now we have to go back. So that wasn't just something he made up, or something that was like some devotees who associate with Prabhupada's godbrothers outside of ISKCON, and sometimes they use this. There's what do you call it? Controversy, because Srila Prabhupada taught us we were once with Krishna, and somehow we misused our independence and we fell. And other devotees say, but if you read all the Vedic scriptures and all the and if you know Sanskrit and you read all the commentators of all the acharyas, you won't find that. This is something they say that. I've heard devotees say, that's Apasiddhanta. And I shocked because it sounds like they're saying Prabhupada is committing some apasiddhanta, which is impossible. But Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers don't have the same relationship with him that we do in ISKCON, and for them maybe it doesn't seem as impossible, whatever. But I saw in that article, I saw there that this phrase "back to Godhead" wasn't just something Prabhupada pulled out of the air and made up. It's something that was the mission of the Gaudiya Math. So the idea that we're going back to our original home, our swarup, our eternal position as servants of Krishna, is there in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Nitya siddha Krishna prema sajuka punoi shravanati shuddha chitte karana udoy. People may understand it differently, and that's okay. We don't want to fight with anybody. It's not like they're wrong. But Lord Chaitanya says that perfect Krishna consciousness actually dwells in all our hearts. It's just dormant there. And by purifying our consciousness, cleaning the mirror of our hearts, beginning with hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna's names, chanting Mahamantra, then it reawakens itself. It rises again. It reasserts itself, so that it's. We shouldn't think that we're imposing something new. In our material consciousness, we're always thinking that we're going to build something new that never existed before. But Krishna consciousness is not like that. It's our original consciousness, and we're just cleaning away the dirt that's accumulated that's covering it. That's the version of Lord Chaitanya. Whether that means we were ever in the spiritual world or not in the spiritual world, we shouldn't fight about it. These are different ways of descriptions of things. But we're eternally in the spiritual world. That's our eternal home. And yet we're not there now. We have to clear our consciousness so that we can really be there. We can really get there. I mean, we can't just say, I'm there. You can say, we know theoretically the soul is always pure. And it's only because it's mixed up with matter that the consciousness becomes cloudy and polluted. We can say that theoretically, but just by knowing theoretically, yes, I'm still in the spiritual world with Krishna, everyone will say, well, you're a fool. You're not in the spiritual world because you still are forced to think about material things and forced to have low consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada said, rather than waste our time arguing about these logical points about when did we come here, which are things that no one can really know, we should use our time to get out. We're here now, and we should get out of this material world. Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, the material world is no place for a gentleman. It's like an outhouse. Sometimes you have to go to an outhouse to maintain your body, to evacuate waste. And it's a stinky, smelly place, and you don't want to linger there and start reading the New York Times, doing the crossword puzzle and stuff. You just want to do your business and get out. So we have some business to do here, and we have some service to do here. And it's 10:30 now. It's been an extra long session. So I think we'll stop here, okay? Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All assembled devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we'll have Guru Puja. Let's all put all the books away. And then we'll have Guru Puja and Kirtan. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Shadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Shadma Bando mui savadana mate Bando mui savadana mate Jahara prashade bhai he bhavatoriyai. I just went this higher. Krishna prapti hoy aha hoy te Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te This works too. Guru mukha padma vakya chitte te koriya agya
All glories to the assembled devotee